So I was going to make a video on how to use Yup to validate stuff both on the front end and React and on the server and GraphQL, or really anything that you're using, where you can basically share the validation in a single schema and you don't have to duplicate your code to do validation on both places. And to do that, I wanted to build a little example to show that and how that all functions. And I figured, why not just make a video on making the example first. So that is what I'm going to do in this video. So in this video, we're going to set up a couple things: a Apollo server, a React frontend, and those are going to be just very simple. And then we're going to add Yup, and we're going to add Yarn Workspaces to tie all these things together. Now, I haven't really thought through entirely how I'm going to do all those things, so this is going to be more of like live coding, and I'm just going to be doing it from scratch. So I have terminals usually where I start for these things, and we're going to start by making a directory. So I'm going to call this React Apollo monorepo, and I decided to do this in just JavaScript because we don't really have, it's not going to be a lot of code, and we're not going to do a lot of, things that would require TypeScript that I feel would be necessary. So I'm going to just do JavaScript to keep it simple and not have to install types for everything. So I'm going to create a packages folder. That's where I'm going to put all my Yarn Workspace stuff, because this is going to be a monorepo, and I wanted to show how you can create a common package to share between the server and the front end. So I'm also going to need to create a npm or a package.json in the root to enable workspaces, and I'm going to just go steal it from my Airbnb project, the package.json, because there's a special thing you need to do for Yarn Workspaces, and I may have it right here actually. And it's this part right here where we have workspaces, and we also have to have private set to true. So I don't need this no hoist nonsense, but packages set to that is perfect. And so this is the minimum package.json at the root when you're starting with Yarn Workspaces. And now we're going to create the server. So let's make that directory. And then we're going to initialize this. And I'm going to install Apollo server and GraphQL. And I'm just going to go grab the getting started code for this. So source index.js, paste that in. You can say start here. And we're just calling node. And if I save this, let's see if that starts up. Perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and install Node Daemon. Well, you know what? This happens to me sometimes where I make a change to the package.json while I'm yarn installing, and I'm just going to have to delete that. Basically, it's a merge conflict. All right, so we have that. So now as I make changes, it's just going to be there. Now let's add Yup. So the idea is I want to add a mutation, and this mutation I want to add validation to. And I'm going to get rid of all these comments. I don't even need a book. We're just going to say a hello query, which returns a string. Because I believe you have to have a query in GraphQL. You can't just have a mutation. All right, so we're going to create a book. And I'm creating an input type here, and let's say this input type has title, which is a string, number of pages, which is a number. What's another good one to validate? I guess strings and numbers are the main ones. Could have an author. And let's create a mutation for that. And what is this? Book. No, it's called book. Okay, my syntax is way off here. It should be like this. So that's the arguments, and then what we output is a boolean. This doesn't matter so much. I'm more just wanting to have a thing that has some arguments that we can validate. So we're going to return true. And this is where we can start playing around with yup. So I'm going to just create a schema. And I'm not really going to explain yup as much in this video. I'm more just going to set things up. And let's see. What is it? Length. So positive integer for age. I mean, we can just rip this example. I like that for the pages at least. So we're adding number required positive integer. Nice. And let's say I want to have the length of that be a certain size for the title. Okay, length, or I can do min max. So let's say min 0, max, let's say 30 characters. Let's do a min of 5. And author. And we're saying here that the author, we'll make it nullable, so it's not required. So we're making pages required. Title, let's make required too. Now, say try catch the error. And what I'm looking for here is whether this is async or not. Yep, it's a promise. I think there's also validate sync, so we could choose either one. I think I normally do validate asynchronous on the server, but either way, I'm not really sure what the pros and cons of each are, at least with yup. I wonder if it doesn't like my async maybe. Nope, there's something else that I have. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't no daemon. All right, this is Lexer. Oh, this is in GraphQL. Okay. It's not like in the semicolons. See, this is a common thing that I do is I immediately jumped to trying to solve it before actually reading the error message, so that did not help. Is there a capital I on? Yeah. I've been doing too much TypeScript. Okay, so my server is up and I have validation on it, so perfect. If I wanted to, I can even just do a mutation real quick. Let's return false if we get an error. And I can see I got some stuff from Yup here telling me what was wrong, so that's perfect. It's already listening. That's funny. Just restart it. Control C out. Oh. Because I have it listening here. Okay, good. Alright, so now I was going to set up the website. Actually, I don't want to make directory. I want to just say create React app. And while that's running, I'm also going to create the common folder. I switch between npm and yarn init. Okay, yeah. And let's see where we're at with the web. Done, okay. We're gonna add Apollo boost so we can call our mutation. Add some libraries. We're going to rip out testing in the CSS. We don't need those. We're going to make a formic form, I think. We'll point this at the server, which is on localhost 4000. And I don't think it's /GraphQL at the end. I think it's just that. Okay, so we're passing the client. So now we need to get rid of this. We can make GraphQL calls just fine now. We don't need the logo. Let's add formic. Now the thing with formic is I don't know if it'll show validation. Okay, it just added it, right? Yeah. So I should be able to import this field component. I may have to make my own custom input to show this, but we'll see. So title, age, and author. We can even say form. If I want to be really lazy. I'm going to wrap this in a formic tag. I'm looking forward to the formic hook. I don't even need to pass handle submit to the form here. I'm going to say initial values Title is an empty string. Age we'll say is 0. Wait, I don't know why I did age. It's pages. I was getting mixed up with the Formic example. Say 1 page. Let's do 2 pages so it's grammatically correct. Alright, and let's have a submit button. Yarn start. You can also start to add our query component around this, or really mutation component from Apollo. So create book. The input is equal to the input variable, and we don't need to do anything selection because we're just returning a boolean. Can match it with what we did over here. I called it book, not input though. And I called it create book here, perfect. And I think this is the right name for that. We'll see if we get some errors when we actually make some requests. So let's open up the console, see where we're at. Alright, so the idea is without a Yarn workspace, without sharing the exact schema, we'd have to like copy paste this, right? Which is not the worst thing. We're still able to just like copy paste the code and we can like put them in both places. But we can do one better. Which we're about to add after we get it working without it. And that's usually my way of doing it, is I'll get it to working without Yarn workspaces, maybe if it's simple, and then I'll add it in when I need it. Alright, let's import yup. And the cool thing with Formic, they have an integration with yup, so I can just say validation schema and plug that in, and that is it. Now I'm not sure if it's going to validate these fields or be able to see the validation. Let's see. Import yup from yup. It's going to restart. I'm wondering if it's because I didn't restart the server after I installed the yup, is probably what's going on here. So it says cannot read property object of undefined. So that means this variable yup is undefined. And I can even confirm this if I do that. Yep, undefined. Let me just make sure that it shows up here in my dependencies. Yep. Now my next guess would be something with node modules going on, because I see no reason why importing yup like that would not work. Yep, we imported it like that, just a different syntax. Imagine it's the same version too. Yep. The other thing that could be causing this is maybe, actually don't really know. What I'm going to just confirm is if I remove this, it works. Just to verify that there's nothing else causing an error. Alright, so this works. So it said onSubmit's not a function. It's because it's not. Alright, so here we're going to call, say, response. Well, actually, we're not actually sending a response from the server, but we're going to just call this mutation create book. kind of just punted this, whatever this error is, and leave it for later. It actually may not even be important to get working because we're going to import it from our common directory, so we may be able to circumvent this error. There's probably something silly I'm doing though. Alright, so we're going to say variables here. Variables. And pass in our values. Actually, I called the variable book. No, I called the variable input. Let's change that to book so it's consistent. And then I'm going to pass my values in. So now we can at least send this stuff to the server. Submit. See what happens. So it says pages is a required field and was not included. Which is kind of interesting. I would have thought pages would have shown up. Oh, it is. Okay, you know what? The args here, I did not deconstruct. Should have a book there. There we go. And now if I submit this form again, it should work just fine. You can also verify this by looking at the network tab. You can see it returned true, so it did work. Alright, so the whole validating that form, basically, I want to validate it both on the front end and on the back end. So when I hit submit here, we should see an error in our console. Perfect. But I also want to add that validation to the front end so I don't even have to hit the server. So that's what we're going to add to this schema to the common directory here, and then we can use it in both places. So let's try to get this working now. So I'm going to ignore getting Yelp working here. I have no idea why it's not. But instead of investigating that, I'm just going to move on. And I'm going to rename this to valid. So create book schema is what I'm going to name it. And we're going to just export it. Oops. And I'm just going to require Yelp like this. I'm not going to add Babel or anything. Actually, do I need to add Babel to do an import? I actually don't know if I will or not. I think this should be fine. If I do require like that, we'll see. Actually, I don't know if I can use export like this. Okay, we're going to see if this works. I haven't actually done a monorepo JavaScript project in a long time. I've done a TypeScript one, which it kind of compiles it for us. But here's what we need to do. So we need to point it to source index.js. We also need to open this, add yup, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to name my workspace Bob. All right, page.json. So now we're going to import Bob in our web project first. Going to get rid of yup as the dependency. Just going to say we don't need it. And we're going to make sure the version matches. Okay, at version 1.0, should import that, should grab that. So now I'm just going to try importing from, I don't know if I want to do star as. I think I can just do common from, and I'm going to see what packages it is available to me. And this is a totally expected error because we have not ran yarn after adding it to our package.json. All right, so yarn start. And now we'll see if I set this up all correctly, I should see a schema. Bob does not contain a default export. All right. About that. Nice. All right, create book schema. Nice, so we can see that's actually a thing, so it looks like I did everything correctly. So now I can add my validation schema. And the idea is I can add it here, and I can do the exact same steps I just did. Copy this to my server. And now we don't actually need yup on the server. We're just going to import from the common, which uses yup, so I guess we still are using yup, but, you know, not directly. All right, Bob common. And now we can use it in the same manner. All right, so we're going to say yarn add. No, we're not. We're just going to say yarn. We just need to install the common package that we just added. And now I think we pretty much have the infrastructure for everything set up. Now, unfortunately, I don't have Babel on my server, so it's not able to transpile the export there. So what I'll do is module.exports and then our schema there. Let's see if that does it. Nice. And let's see, hopefully this does not break the website. Looks like it has not. Can restart it to double check. Now, if I was doing TypeScript, I wouldn't have to worry about this because it's going to build out the JavaScript and transpile it to an appropriate level that Node can pick it up and React can pick it up just fine. All right, so this should, you'll notice if we go to Network tab, I hit submit, it's not going to let me actually submit the form. It only lets me submit it when it's valid. Interesting. Is this considered valid? Yep, this is actually considered valid. This is at least 5 characters. If we go down to 4, nope. It doesn't matter if I add stuff to this. Can it be super long? What was the validation that I added? Now, it would be nice if I could actually see the validation there. And that's where we can create our own custom field. So the question is, do I want to do that? I think it would probably be worthwhile to add real quick. So the next question is, which library should I use for UI to show the error? Or should I just create a custom little component? I guess let's create just a custom little component real quick. All right, so we're going to say input.js. All right, so we're going to get a field, and that's what we're going to spread onto this. And this is basically a formic field component thing. I'm going to wrap the entire thing in a div. And then we're going to show the error here. Field dot. Okay, it's not going to tell me any information about it because I don't know what it is. I'm trying to think where the error message comes from, and I actually don't remember. I think it's either field or it's form. Nope, it's form. I remember now. Let's console log field just in case I'm wrong, though. And we can make the color red. So now we can use this input in our fields over here. It's actually, I think, easier for me to just do this and then rename to pages, author. All right. All right, so that's that. Go to my console. I don't think there's any values I need to check. This is doing exactly what I wanted it to do. The other thing to note is we can get the touched value. Errors. I don't think it's touches. All right, we have these values. I think it may be touched. I can't remember. We'll log the form to double check, and we can say only show the error if the field has been actually touched first. Yep, touched is what it's called. All right, so I've not touched the title, shouldn't display anything. If I click away, we can see the title must be at least 5. Now it's good. Do some stuff here, do -2. Click away, must be positive. And I'll talk about how to do custom error messages and all that stuff with Yup. But that's it for this video. I think we got everything I wanted set up. This was a little different style of video. I kind of just was explaining a little bit less, just setting up the example. So if you like this sort of thing, it's kind of a behind the scenes, because I'm now going to use this example for my future video. Let me know when I can do more of them like this, as I'm setting up little examples. But yep, tomorrow's video will actually use this and explain how it all works and how Yup works exactly.